Why did I say delicio? How do you say delicious in Spanish? Hi, it's Roma and welcome back to my kitchen. And today I'm going to teach you how to make my carnitas. Now in Spanish, carnitas means little meats. So how I'm going to prepare my carnitas today is I braise it in a pan and then I put it in my Instant Pot with the other ingredients that I have that I'll show you. And it comes out the most succulent, juicy, tender piece of pork that you will have ever had. It is delicious. I use them in tacos, I use them in taquitos. It's E's go-to meal. If we get low on carnitas, he's like, babe, where are the carnitas? So I'm constantly making carnitas, probably as much as I make my coconut rice. It's an easy, foolproof way to make them, and it's just a great go-to to have in a tub in the fridge to just heat up on the pan with some oil, make them nice and crispy for tacos or eggs or anything else that you want to add it to. But it's a great thing to have in your fridge, especially now that we're entering fall, winter. It's just a really belly filler, stick to your ribs kind of meal. So anyway, join me today and I'll teach you how to do it. So these are the ingredients that I use in my carnitas recipe. So I have about 6 pounds of pork shoulder or pork butt. The word is interchangeable at different butchers or different supermarkets. They have different names for it. So this is a pork shoulder, boneless. You can cook with a bone on, but I think it's just better to cook with boneless. So I usually cook between 5 and 6 pounds of this at one time. You want to leave the fat marbling on it because it will help with making it more succulent. And then I've got my salt, I've got my pepper, and I've got my oregano and my cumin, which I'm going to sprinkle all over this when I fry it up on the pan to braise it and get a nice brown crust on it. I'm going to be using olive oil. A lot of traditional carnitas recipes call for lard, but I typically tend to cook with olive oil. And then I've got the juice of 2 oranges, and I've got a sweet Maui onion, which I just love the sweet onions, and a red onion. I like that they complement each other. Then I'm going to chop these up. I'm going to de-seed these jalapenos. I typically use just 1 large one, but because this bush grew 3 little ones, that would equate to, you know, like 1 large one there. So I'm going to cut these open and de-seed them and then chop them up and add them in there, and it's just all going to melt together in the Instant Pot. So let's get started. So this is what it looks like when I get it from the butcher. So here we have the 2 rolls. Different butchers do it different ways. But I open them up and they're put together with this twine, which keeps them all together. You see that nice marbling? You're going to want to leave that intact. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all this string off. And your piece of pork, like when I get it from Whole Foods, it's not wrapped up like this. But I bought this at Lazy Acres, and I actually really do like their meat department. Look at that beautiful piece. So that's why they wrap it up with the twine so that it's a nice little ball. But this doesn't even need to be cut. All I'm going to do is wash it before I put it in the pan and make sure all the twine is off. And I'll do the same thing with this one. These are my kitchen shears that I use. And I specifically just use these scissors to cut things off of meat. I also throw these scissors in the dishwasher. So there's the second one. And as you can see, this one is just 1 solid piece. So I'll cut this down the middle so that I'm able to sear both sides. So let me go wash these off and I'll be right back. So now that I have the oil heated up in the pan, I'm going to prepare to braise the pork so it gets a nice crispy crust on it, a golden crust on it. So first what I'm going to do is I just wash this off. Just going to pat it dry with a paper towel so it's not too wet. And I'm going to cut it in pieces so that it's easy to put on the pan. So there's a nice piece there. You want to keep the fat on it for the marbling. That fat's going to actually help it cook and keep it tender. And we can skim fat pieces off of it after it's done cooking if there's too much, but I always keep it on. Remember, this was one solid piece, so I'm basically just gonna, let's cut this down the middle. God, that's a beautiful piece of pork, isn't it? Look at that. That's like the perfect marbling. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is when I put these on the pan, I'm gonna put all of my spices on it so it kind of gets crusted into it. It's really delicious. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna generously sprinkle salt, because pork and lamb really need a lot of salt for flavoring. And I use a Himalayan, if you can see it, I use a Himalayan pink salt. You can get a really good deal on it at Home Goods. I get it in a big container. It's really expensive at the market, but you can get a really nice big bag of it at Home Goods. Sometimes I get the Himalayan rock and I just grind it down on my coffee grinder. And then I'm going to take oregano. And I don't really measure it out. I just sprinkle oregano all over it, just like that, so each side is covered. And I'm going to do this again when I flip it in the pan, right before I flip it. Just like that. Whoops, something fell down over there. Then I've got salt. You got your salt, your pepper, your oregano. And then, of course, the most important ingredient is ground cumin. And with my spice bottles, I always pull that shaker off because I find it to be incredibly useless, because I'm always, doing things free-handed. But this just gives it a really nice flavor that will get trapped into that nice brown crust. So there we have everything here. So now I'm going to take these over and put them into the hot pan and fry them up. So I'm going to turn the flame on medium high to high, and I'm going to add, this is extra virgin olive oil. I'm going to add and coat in the pan. I put a lot in actually, because once this meat sears, I'm going to flip it over, and it will create some of its own oils and juices, but I do make sure that it's got a nice thick coating. So we're going to let that heat up. So as the oil heats up, I'm going to put each piece in here, so we'll have to do a few batches, and then I'm going to put it in the Instant Pot. So now I'm going to add the pieces. Turn it down a little bit. Sometimes I like to work with two forks. Alright, so next, stay there. On this side, I'm ready. On this side, we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to do salt, so that when we flip it over, it's got flavoring on both sides. Pepper. oregano. Is this recording?
Yeah.
And most importantly, cumin. Put a nice crust on there. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes. And now I'm just going to turn it with my second fork. Got that nice crust on it. See how all the spices are in that crust? Look at that. So now you've got all those flavors packed down into that nice brown braised crust. So when it starts to melt down in the Instant Pot, all of those flavors are going to be in there. And I did 5 minutes on one side, and I'm going to do 5 minutes on this side. I'm at a medium-high flame. And then we're going to transfer them into the Instant Pot. Okay, so here we have the Instant Pot, and what I'm going to do while the pork roast is still browning, interchangeable, is I want to show you, so this is the insert that the meat is going to sit on. So I'm going to put that back in the pot, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop up my onions, my jalapenos, and my garlic. And I'm going to put all of those in the bottom of the pot. Now, a sweet Maui onion is my favorite. And I just get them at Trader Joe's. They're pretty inexpensive. They're like 59 cents a piece. And a lot of people, when they make carnitas, I got meat on the brain right now. They like to chop these up into little cubes, but I don't like to do that in the Instant Pot. I like that you can have, like, when everything breaks down, you'll have these little strings of delicious flavored onions throughout your meat. So I don't cut them into any little cubes. I just put them in just like this. And I'm going to cry with this onion because it's making me cry. So I just sprinkle it into the pot, like so. And then I like to also add a red onion. This one looks like it's got, now sometimes you open up an onion and whoo, it's making me cry. You've got these little spots. Well, you know what? You can just peel those off and get to the best layer of onion to get rid of that. So it looks like also in this little bit of a core, it's got a little bit of brown. Do the same thing you did for the white onion. And you add that into the pot. Okay, so now we've got both types of onion in the bottom of this, and the meat's just going to sit in top. So the next thing I'm going to add in, because remember we have the spices on the meat. So I have these little jalapenos that I grew in my garden. Now, if you like your meat super spicy, then by all means, leave the seeds in. But because we have varying levels of spice in my kitchen, I'm gonna get rid of the seeds. You can always add in spice to your meat with a really, you know, spicy hot sauce or salsa, but it's hard to get the spice out. But this will add a nice flavor. Because what happens is when the meat gets cooked, I'll go in and I'll mix all of this up. So let me just get it off the board. All right. So you can just slice it up like this. Also, it's about the same size, and I'm going to throw this into the Instant Pot. At the bottom with the onions. Are you licking my pants? He's anticipating the piggy coming out of the pan. He becomes my best friend when I'm in the kitchen. This is Ben, AKA the mini bro, the micro bro, but he's growing pretty fast, so he's almost a mini bro, if you all remember my sweet bro that I lost on June 26th. Okay, so here, this is gonna go into the pan, just like that. Sprinkle it around at the bottom. Next, we're gonna take the juice of 2 oranges. Look at those beautiful, these are Valencia oranges. Grown right here in California. We do have the best citrus on the planet. Look at that, aren't they beautiful? So when you cook in an Instant Pot, you need to have at least 1 cup of liquid. Now when I make my pulled pork sandwiches in the Instant Pot, I tend to use apple juice, onions and apple juice in my pulled pork. But when I make my carnitas, I like to put oranges in. Oranges add a really nice flavor to it. So we're gonna need a cup of liquid. So here's my little measuring cup. I love this little strainer I got. I got this at Williams-Sonoma. They had it in the back. They never have them out front. And she said, oh, I have just one in the back. So I really only needed one, so it worked out. 1 second, I need to flip the pork. Okay, so now here's, you can see the liquid. If I move it around, you can see it's got 1 cup of orange juice in the bottom, the jalapenos, the garlic, and the onions. So I just take my fork and I just kind of break up the onions so that there's not too many big chunks of it. And I kind of just push it up around the sides so that the meat sits in here. So I'm gonna take the meat and I'm gonna put it in the bottom of the pan. Hopefully all of this will fit. Sometimes I have to rearrange a few times. But you just have to make sure, see all that, all of the spices are now encrusted in that browned, seared, braised, area. So as the meat starts to break apart when it's cooking, you'll get all those delicious flavors. So there's a little bit of grease left in the pan, and I'm just gonna, because there's a lot of spices in there still, I'm just gonna include that in there. And then I'm gonna put it in the Instant Pot. Now, the normal pork setting on the Instant Pot is for 35 minutes. Because I have 6 pounds of meat, I need to do more time. So this amount of meat, about 5 pounds, I would do about 50 minutes. This would, I'd probably do about 55 minutes. Okay, so my carnitas are done. Now, it took 55 minutes for them to cook in here. And the total time from when I hit the start button until this moment was 1 hour and 12 minutes, so 72 minutes. So 55 minutes of that was the actual cooking time with the pressurization. 17 minutes of that was the Instant Pot building up the pressure to begin to cook it. So 72 minutes total, which is really great because if I did this in the oven, it would take a slow cook of about 4 hours, 5 hours. So I've shaved off several hours. Excuse the ruckus down below. Okay, so back to the Instant Pot. So next I'm gonna take off the lid and I'm gonna shred it and then I'm gonna eat it. All right, stay tuned. Okay, it's showtime. All right. I don't know if you can see in there, but it looks magical. So what I'm gonna do is, these are my friends here, these 2 forks. I'm gonna take this out, the roast out, and I'm just, you can see that? Can you see just how it falls apart? And you still have the nice thick crust with all of those spices that I put on it, the cumin and the oregano, salt and pepper that got seared into that. And you're literally just gonna take your carnitas and you're gonna come in here and shred it. And at this point, for example, like there's a big piece of fat like this, I'll just discard it for my pups. But look it's just literally falling apart. Can you see that? It's just, beautiful. And look how easy it is to shred. Now I do this with all of my pieces. And what I like to do is when I make a taco, I put these in quesadillas, flautas, taquitos, tacos. I'll take about that much at a time and I'll put it on a pan that has olive oil in the bottom of it. And I make it nice and crispy. I fry it up and then I put it in the taco. E likes to just take big scoops of this and put it on that coconut rice that I've made in another video of mine. And gosh, there's just so many things you can do with this. He loves to put this in his eggs also. You can see some of the onion right there on that piece. Now remember, this is a really big 6-pounder that I did. But I still, even when I'm doing a 3 pounds, I still use the same amount of ingredients. Remember, you always have to have 1 cup of liquid in your Instant Pot. And granted, your pork is going to create its own juices as well. But like, there's a big old piece of fat that I don't want to have in there. And here's another one. Of course, the dogs absolutely love it. All right, get back in there. We have 2 more pieces and then I'll show you the goodness at the bottom of the pan. There's another big piece of fat. Let's take that one out too. Oh, that's beautiful. Look at that. It's so succulent and juicy. And it just so tender. I used to make this in the crock pot, and you can still make it in the crock pot. It takes about 8 hours on slow, But I'm telling you, something about this Instant Pot, I think it just makes it taste better. I really do. All right, so next I'm going to, look at that. Isn't it just delightful? All right, so next, let me get a paper towel. I'm going to remove, and it's pretty hot, but I'm going to remove this tray that the roast was sitting on. And let me get my slotted spoon. Here is all that goodness at the bottom. You've got the garlic, you've got red onion, you've got the Maui onion, and you've got the jalapenos. And I'm just gonna pour this, all of this over the top. All of it. And this is all gonna get mixed in with that. Also, what I like to do is I'm gonna add some liquid to this. When I put it in a container in one of those tubs in the fridge, I add liquid to it so that it still stays nice and succulent. But look at that. You're gonna get nice pieces of the onion, the jalapeno, and let's see, 2 types of onion, jalapeno, and garlic. And then you've got all the orange juice in there. Look at that. All right, we're gonna have to test this, make sure it's up to snuff. But boy, it sure does smell good. Okay, it is time to put the party in my mouth. This looks so amazing. It's succulent, it's got jalapeno, it's got onion, 2 types of onion, and I can see the garlic in there. So I hope you make this for your next taco night or just to have carnitas in a big tub, because we always have it in our fridge. It's super easy to fry up. Add a little oil to your pan, put it in, brown it, throw some eggs on there, or just make a taco out of it. And I hope you enjoy it as much as we do here at Casa Barbas. So leave me a comment, let me know what you think, but it's time to eat. Thanks for joining me. To get my recipe, click the link below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and smash that bell for future updates.